Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into one of the most sweeping, fiercely tragic character studies in all of high fantasy. We are talking about Túrin Turambar at the absolute peak of his power. This is a story of defiant courage, unyielding loyalty, and a doom that honestly seems completely impossible to escape. So we're going to look closely at Túrin's rise, his greatest alliance, and the devastating turning points that really defined his early life. Let's get into it.
Listen to this quote for a second. "Thus was the fate of Túrin woven, which is called the tale of grief, for it is sorrowful, and in it are revealed most evil works of Morgoth Bauglir." That instantly sets the stakes here, doesn't it? We aren't just looking at a standard hero's adventure. We are witnessing a meticulously crafted tragedy, orchestrated by the Dark Lord Morgoth himself.
Okay, let's dive right into this with Section 1, A Cursed Inheritance. Because to really understand Túrin, you absolutely have to understand the trauma of his origins.
So, from the very beginning, Túrin's life is totally shadowed by doom. He's born in Dor-Lomin, and his world shatters when he is just 8 years old. Imagine that. His father, the great warrior Hurin, is lost in the catastrophic battle of unnumbered tears, the Nirnaeth Ernoiad. With Easterlings occupying their lands and oppressing their people, Túrin's mother, the proud Morwen, realizes her son is in immense danger of being enslaved. So out of sheer desperation and love, she sends him in secret across these incredibly dangerous mountains to seek harbor in the elven kingdom of Doriath.
Moving on to Section 2, Flight into the Wild.
So, in the halls of King Thingol of Doriath, Túrin was fostered in honor of his father, and he grew fair and incredibly strong over 9 years. But he was always marked with this deep, lingering sorrow. And peace in Doriath couldn't last. Take a look at the dramatic scene right here. An elf named Cyros, who was resentful of the honor Túrin was receiving, cruelly taunted him, even mocking the women of his homeland. Well, in a sudden flash of anger, Túrin threw a drinking vessel at him. And the next day, after being waylaid, Túrin actually chased a terrified, naked Cyros through the woods. The chase ended in total disaster when Cyros attempted a desperate leap and fell to a broken death in the stream below. Terrified that he'd be held captive, Túrin made a fateful decision. He fled into the wild.
But you know what the absolute true tragedy is here? When King Thingol heard the full story, he actually pardoned Túrin. He held him wronged. But Túrin was already gone, and he deemed himself an outlaw. He crossed the girdle of Melian and fell in with a desperate band of houseless men lurking in the wild. Men whose hands were turned against elves, men, and orcs alike.
And this brilliantly illustrates the core conflict of Túrin's character. Túrin renames himself Nienor, which means the wronged. His stubborn pride acts as his impenetrable wall. But on the other side of that wall is his great friend from Doriath, Beleg Strongbow. Beleg ventures into the dangerous wild, finds Túrin's outlaw camp, and delivers Thingol's pardon, practically begging him to return. But Túrin? He outright refuses the king's forgiveness. His pride simply won't allow him to accept it, which just sets him further down a very dark path.
Which brings us to Section 3, The House of Ransom.
So Túrin's refusal to return home forces him to carve out a new kingdom in the wilderness, which leads to a very strange encounter. Túrin and his weary outlaws stumble upon 3 dwarves fleeing in the dusk, and they manage to capture one of them, Mim. Now, Mim is one of the Noegith Niben, the petty-dwarfs. As you can see here, they're a forgotten, diminished race harboring deep resentments. To spare his own life, Mim offers a desperate ransom. He promises to lead Túrin's band to his hidden secret halls.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the sheer visual dominance of their destination. This is Amon Ruth, the Bald Hill. Mim leads them up these secret paths to this massive, flat-topped crown that just rears up above the stony heath. It's totally bare, except for this thick mantle of red saragon flowers that make the hilltop look as if it's covered in blood. This hidden fortress, which Mim calls Barin Danwith, the House of Ransom, becomes the primary stage for our tragedy.
Meanwhile, back in Doriath, Beleg prepares to seek Túrin out once more. King Thingol grants him a parting gift, a sword made of meteoric iron named Angelchow. But as Queen Melian looks at the blade, she delivers this chilling warning. There's malice in this sword. It will not love the hand it serves, neither will it abide with you long. It is just a heavy, heavy piece of dramatic irony. Beleg takes this cursed sword anyway, along with the sacred Lembas waybread, and heads right back into the wild.
All right, let's get into Section 4, Land of Bow and Helm.
So, Beleg's return sparks an era of incredible triumph. We are essentially entering the golden age of our story here. In the dim dusk of a bitter winter, a cloaked figure suddenly appears at Amon-Ruth. It's Beleg. He yields to his love for Túrin, staying with him completely against his own wisdom. And look at what he brings. The legendary dragon helm of Doriath to lift Túrin's spirits, the dark sword Anglachal, and the healing lembas of the elves, which quickly restores the outlaws' fading strength.
Together, they are literally unstoppable. The region between Teglin and the west march of Doriath becomes known as Dor Corthel, the land of bow and helm. The whisper goes out across Beleriand that the great bow and helm have arisen again. Dispossessed warriors flock to these two captains, and they fiercely drive the orcs back from the guarded plain.
Túrin's heart is high again. He takes on yet another name, Gorthel, the Dreadhelm. But, as you might guess, this fame is a massive double-edged sword. The news reaches the deep halls of Nargothrond and, tragically, it reaches Angband. Morgoth laughs, because now he knows exactly where Húrin's son is hiding. Almost immediately, the red hill of Amon-Rud is ringed with spies.
Which brings us to a much darker chapter. Section 5. Betrayal on the Bald Hill.
The glorious sanctuary they built? Yeah, it couldn't last. Let's walk through exactly how the walls close in, because it unravels through an act of bitter, bitter betrayal. Mim the dwarf had grown to deeply hate Beleg the elf, who was sitting in the shadows of his own house. When Mim and his son are captured by orcs while out gathering winter roots, Mim reverts to survival at any cost. He promises, for a second time in his life, to guide enemies to his hidden home. He demands Túrin be spared, and then, in the dead of night, he leads the orcs directly up the secret paths of Amon-Rud.
The House of Ransom is taken totally unawares. Many outlaws are slaughtered right in their sleep. Some fight their way to the hilltop, shedding their blood on the red Saragon flowers until they fall. Túrin fights fiercely, but he is eventually cast in a net, enmeshed, and dragged away in chains toward Angband.
And here we are at the final, heartbreaking climax. Section 6. The Tragedy of Anglachal.
So, Beleg actually survives the massacre. Grievously wounded, but alive. Using his unmatched skills, he relentlessly tracks the orcs northwards without even sleeping. Deep in the dreadful, twisted woods of Tornufuin, he discovers an escaped, broken elven thrall named Gwyndor. Together they follow the orc host to a bare dell right on the edge of the barren dunes of Anfauglith. As a massive thunderstorm rolls in from the west, providing cover, Beleg silently eliminates the wolf sentinels and creeps right into the enemy camp.
So, the crucial point is this devastating moment right here. Beleg finds Túrin tied to a withered tree, senseless in weariness. They carry him a short way into a thicket. Beleg draws the cursed sword Anglachal to cut Túrin's fetters, but the blade slips, pricking Túrin's foot. Aroused into a sudden blind wakefulness of rage and fear, truly believing the orcs are tormenting him, Túrin leaps up, wrestles the sword away, and strikes down his unseen foe in the dark. And then, a great flash of lightning illuminates the darkness. In that brief, brilliant light, Túrin looks down and sees the face of his best friend, Beleg Cuthalion. He has slain the one person who loved him most.
The aftermath is just suffocating in its sorrow. The orcs, terrified by the thunderstorm, flee the camp and leave their captive behind. Túrin just sits there in the tempest, utterly stone still, unmoving and unweeping, his face so terrible that Gwyndor cannot even bear to look at him. They bury Beleg in a shallow grave alongside his great black yew-bow, Belthronding. Gwyndor takes up the black sword Anglachal. The text tells us that the absolute crushing grief of this moment was permanently graven onto the face of Túrin, never to fade.
Which leaves us with this final, provocative thought. Throughout this explainer, we've seen Túrin pushed and pulled by immense forces. But I have to ask you, was his doom truly woven by the dark, external magic of Morgoth's curse on his family? Or was the foundation of this tragedy laid by the simple, stubborn pride of a mortal man who refused a king's forgiveness, alienating himself until the only possible outcome was disaster? It's a tension that echoes through the rest of Túrin's legendary, sorrowful life. Thank you so much for joining me to explore this incredible lore. Until next time, keep questioning the tales you thought you knew.